we talk about requirement classification, we understood what a requirement is in the context of the product development or process initiative or a change management program. So business requirements, there are different types of requirements in the context of product development. We talk about business requirements, and we talk about, for example, solution requirements. We have non-functional requirements. So we'll talk about all of these as different types or different categories of requirements. So the first one is business requirements. So when we talk about business requirement, as the name suggests, it is about the way that you would deliver value to the business. So it would mean that the goals, the objectives, the strategic objectives of this particular business or business unit or the entity, and what are the outcomes that are going to come out from the prescribed solution or the offering that we have got to say. So those are basically what we call as business requirements. So you're not looking at a specific solution attribute, but you're looking at the overall context of how that would benefit the business. Is it going to increase revenue? Is it going to decrease the cost of the operation? Is it going to save us some expense? All of these that can be defined as the business requirement. And bear in mind that they're applicable at both micro level as well as macro level initiatives. So it doesn't mean that it is only applicable at the big enterprise level initiative. Even a simple small program to create a mobile application that has a significant impact in terms of how that could lead to the customer satisfaction directly. You're increasing the customer satisfaction because the customers have got mobile phones now in their hands all the time. So having a mobile app on their phone would be benefiting the customers, because you are trying to give them an option to use your product on the go. That means your customer satisfaction is improving, and because your customer satisfaction is increasing or improving over a period of time, you're actually trying to contribute that to the customer loyalty, because they're sticking to your product, your business, and the stickiness and the loyalty would actually again in turn relate to the increase in the sales, because the customer retention is directly leading to increased sales and reduced expenses, because you're not really spending more time on advertising and promotion and everything else. So you're actually in effect directly that small decision to create the mobile app has actually led to the business requirement of increasing the sales by, let's say, 20% from the retained customers or loyal customers. So very, very important. So in that context, what we're trying to look at is the entire gamut of what we're trying to do. What products do we have? What kind of services we have? What is the set of processes we have at the moment? How we can improve the processes? And what kind of solutions we're trying to look at? Any custom solution that we're trying to develop for our customers, for users and stakeholders, and how all of these different offerings, as what we call, how all of these different offerings are going to benefit and help our brand equity, our brand as an image of an identity of a brand of our own organization. How is it going to increase the goodwill? Either in a direct or indirect way. We need to consider these. All of these would be the business requirements or the business objectives, as what we call. And then we've got the other type or other category of requirements called stakeholder requirements. So here, it's not the business as a whole that is trying to say that this is what I need, but rather it's the needs of individual stakeholder or a collective set of stakeholders that would help achieve the business requirement. So basically that is what we call as a stakeholder requirement. So in the context of, for example, we were talking about the customer loyalty and things. So there, one of the stakeholder needs or stakeholder requirement could be that the marketing department wants the mobile app to be connected to the enterprise application they have on the web, so that they can try and understand the usage of these customers. So that is basically a stakeholder requirement. And that stakeholder is actually linked to the marketing, the CMO, the chief marketing officer, and the entire marketing department. They're trying to leverage on the existing base, user base, existing customer base, and they would like to link the mobile app usage with that of the enterprise app, so that they don't have to reinvent the wheel Instead, they would like to actually understand how many of the existing customers who already are using the enterprise web app would be also using the mobile app. So that means that we're trying to leverage the existing systems. We're trying to help retain the existing customer base. We're trying to provide them with more options. That means more satisfied customers, more loyalty, and more business, more income. So that in a sense is basically what we call a stakeholder need. In this case, the stakeholder need is that of the marketing department's need of having this kind of a link with the existing web app. And the stakeholder requirements could be, again, in the context of products, the processes, the business, customers and users, different contexts, different ways of looking at it, different planes and different dimensions. So it could be in the context of technology implementation. The CTO could have one way, the technology team, the infrastructure team could actually propose to use, for example, a cloud to get the data from, because they don't want to have different databases, one for the mobile app, one for the web app, one for the enterprise app. Instead of that, they want to actually have one unified repository where they have got all the information. So potentially they've got the entire CRM, the customer relationship management data, residing in one repository. And then whoever is trying to create an app or an application would actually be referring to that same data. So you don't have to recreate the data, 100 different databases. So the technology team would have that kind of a stakeholder requirement there to have a single repository to be used. So that's the technology stakeholders requirements. We have already seen the marketing stakeholder. Similarly, for example, the product manager and product team would have another requirement to actually say that this mobile app needs to be aligned to the development of the web application, for example, right? So they want to have this kind of a release management. Don't release the mobile app till the web application is released, or vice versa. They want to see that, for example, because mobile application has got more popularity and more potential to reach multiple people, because a lot of people have got mobile phones now. Penetration is more of mobile phones. So they might actually say that, you know what, let's try and launch this mobile app first, and then we will talk about the web application later, because they won't actually follow the strategy of mobile first, because everybody is now thinking and working mobile first strategy. Let's launch this. So in terms of the release management of the products, the product management team might actually say that let's have this release of this one first and then the web app. So that's the product management stakeholder requirement. So that stakeholder is different, and their requirement is different from that of the technology, whose requirement is again different from that of the marketing. So each of these are different stakeholders and different needs and different goals. And then we also have another category called solution requirement, which means that here we are not talking about the business or the technology or the stakeholders, but here we're talking about the aspect, the characteristic of a solution that is required for us to meet the stakeholder requirement. So for example, when we talk about solution, it could be the product, CRM product, for example. If you say that we're building a customer relationship management repository, which is going to be one central repository that is going to be used across all the teams, all the different solutions, all the applications. They're going to use the same data about our customers, which is centrally stored in one place. If you're going to develop this solution, if you're going to propose this solution as the project that we're going to work on, then that CRM product will have different types of requirements and different needs. So essentially the functional or the capabilities, and the non-functional or the conditions. So functional capabilities are basically those that would contribute directly to the CRUD use case. We were talking about CRUD, right? The create, read, update, delete. So those functionality, you should be able to create a customer, add a new customer. You should be able to edit an existing customer. You should be able to update the existing customer's address. You should be able to delete a customer who is no longer a customer with us, who is no longer doing a business with us for the last 3 years. So then you can safely delete that customer, because we're not really, or you can mark that customer as old or no longer active or inactive customer. Then we can try and bring it back into the customer fold by actually giving them more and more mails and more opportunities for them to do business with us. So that basically this whole set of CRUD, this create, review, update, delete, this functionality is basically a set of functional requirements. And non-functional is basically, you're talking about something like it should be secure, it should be highly performant, should be available all the time, it should be available through the mobile phone, through the web browser. All of these are going to be the non-functional requirements. So those are not directly CRUD, but they've got something to do with how the CRM system is going to work. So essentially, that's why we call those as solution requirements. So requirements which are essentially the solutions perspective, from that of the perspective of the solution, which have got to do with how the solution would work, and then what makes the solution work. So those two would qualify that as the solution requirements. And then the transition requirements. So we have seen three types of requirements so far, three categories of types. First one is we've had a look at the business requirements. Then from the business requirement, we looked at the stakeholder requirements. Then we had a look at the solution requirements, which is about the functional and the non-functional aspects of the solution. And then the fourth type is basically the transition requirements. So essentially, this set of requirements would actually help you go from the solution to the implementation in terms of the conditions a solution or a change must meet that are temporary. So essentially the delivery, if you want to help deliver something or deploy a solution into the customers' mobile phones, into the customers' browsers, or if you want to deploy that into a server, so all of this, a cloud, all of that would be the temporary. So these are transition requirements, means essentially you need to do these so that your solution would be reaching the hands and would be able to work in the context of the customers or the users' environment. So their devices, they should be able to use them. So what will you do to be able to, for example, get this customer relationship management system, the CRM system that we are developing? If you want to let it be deployed into our own system, into our own cloud infrastructure, then the salespeople can use it while they're on the field. They can actually use the mobile phone to be able to access the customer's data because it's connected to the same repository of data, as well as the marketing people within the organization sitting on the desks, they can use it, as well as, for example, the customers themselves, when they're trying to log in into the system, into our system, they can actually change their address or add another site or add a new address that of their branch office. They'll be able to do us. That's what we call as self-service, right? Self-service application. So the self-service application is also available for our customers, so they don't have to call our marketing people or the key account management persons to ask to make them change one email address or add another person or change the contact person. These are the things that they should be able to do themselves. That's why we have this self-service applications. So that's another transition. So all of these would be so if you want to make sure that these are the requirements that could be delivered, then you need to upload this CRM system into a cloud so that all of the people, whether they're internal or external, whether they're at the desks or whether they're using mobile phones outside on the field, they should be able to use it, right? So the deployment aspect of it is what is called a transition requirement. So the ability to deploy it into the cloud infrastructure is a transition requirement. Similarly, the training that you would need to give to the end users, the salespeople, the marketing, because they're not, obviously, you're not expecting all the people to be technically very smart and savvy. You need to be able to give them some training initially to help them understand how to use the system, where to find it, how to deploy it, how to download the application from the store, how to install it. Once installed, how to register themselves to that. Once registered, what should be done as a first step to change the password, and then from there on, how to find the customers, how they can add a new customer, how they can find the address of an existing customer, how can they add a new branch of the existing customer, blah blah blah, all of these different tasks. So those people need to be given the training, and that again could be one significant set of transition requirements that we can consider. So that's basically another category of requirement. So again, transition requirements could be that these are those requirements that are helping you move from one stage to another, from one aspect of the solution to another. So you're actually trying to move from the solution as it is being developed to something that is being deployed and delivered to the end users, and then they can try and start using the application, in a